Welcome to the hottest real estate topics on the planet, keeping you up to date with all the creative ways to buy and sell real estate without bank qualifying, so anyone can build real income starting today. Here is another great show with Dealmaker Bill and Pete the Rookie.
All right, here we are at another episode of Flipping Houses for Rookies. Although I have to say, Peter, lately, I don't know how much rookie this stuff is, but we're doing it, you know?
Well, I'm still waiting for my raise, Bill, and my promotion.
Yeah. You got a ladder there?
I have a step stool. Can I use that?
There's
Is that
your
what
raise.
I get?
There's your raise.
It got 2 steps on it. Come on, give me something here.
Episode number 294. The title of this episode is Part 2, Rookie Creative Real Estate All-Star Team Building Breakdown and Details.
That's right.
Here's a description. I would imagine you are here ready to listen to this podcast because you want to do less and make more with creative real estate. However, you keep hitting challenges and obstacles that only sheer willpower can break you through. If you are wondering how to break any frustration with getting people to work for you productively, tired of hitting your ceiling of growth, or nothing seems to be working for you so you can realize the profits you need to have freedom with consistent cash flow to buy your life back, and are looking for a core strategy to build an all-star team as you increase income to pay them, you are in the right place. This podcast will teach you how simple it is to be a leader, but not simplistic, by not making it simpler than what it is. So you can start today doing less while you make more with cash flow from creative real estate deals. In other words, we are going to help you get a grip on doing deals instead of the creative real estate business learning aspect getting a grip on you. And choking you to death before you succeed. Like so many of our listeners. They have the grip of the I'm going to learn creative real estate around their throat, and they are choking to do a deal.
Yep, like David and Goliath. They feel outnumbered.
There you go. All right, cool. So before we get started, just realize that there is a link in the chat. I will go over. I'm sorry, I keep saying chat. There's a link in the description of wherever you're listening to us or watching us. I will go over that in a few minutes. It won't make sense until you get part of the way through this podcast, and then it'll make more sense, and hopefully it'll want you to rush over there and do something about it. Also, we record this podcast on Eastern Standard Time, 9:30 a.m., thereabouts, on a Thursday morning. I know that's a weird time for most people, and they're probably working and stuff like that, but we do broadcast this around the world. I have people from other countries, lots of other countries, so the time is always an issue. However, if you so desire to be part of our podcast or have questions, you can go to Facebook or YouTube, and you could put your comments in there, and I can see them on my screen as we're recording. So if you have questions or like to be part of the podcast, you can come on there, and I will respond to those questions. I usually put them on the screen, and I'll if they're related to the topic we're talking about, I will cover them. And then lastly, make sure you like us, or if you're on Facebook, or leave comments, or subscribe to our channels and leave us a testimonial on whatever podcast channel you're listening to us, so we can get some feedback. Because communication is two-way, Peter. It's not supposed to be one way, it's two-way.
Sure, what if I never said anything and I just stared at you? How would that work out, huh?
I don't know.
Maybe
I
not
might
too
like
bad.
that. Might like that.
Not too bad. Well, okay, I'll try it for one podcast. Here we go. Is he frozen, or is he just... Yeah, never mind. Go ahead. Go
No,
ahead.
I wouldn't like that.
Go ahead.
All right, here we go. Let's get started. So I'm going to start off by giving everyone listening today a disclaimer that this is not, do you hear me? This is not. This is so I don't get support tickets. This is not a standalone podcast. To fully get results after today, you're going to want to listen to episode number 285, which is Never Revealed Before, Shocking and Exciting Truth About Creative Real Estate Procrastination, where we fully explain how to find someone who can do it for you creates way more results than you've ever imagined. And trying to learn how to do it creates many problems and low results that often kill rookies before hitting the starting gate. And this datum alone, this podcast alone is the reason why we have so many followers that are 1, 3, 5, 7, 10 years or plus talking about doing creative real estate and never do it. Is because they spend too much time worrying about trying to figure out and making problems by saying, how do I do it? Yeah. And it's the wrong question. You need to start asking yourself, who can help me do this? Which, by the way, this is not my invention. I'm stealing it from Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy, the book called Who Not How. Who Not What?
Who Not What?
I think it's Who Not How. Anyways, you can find it on Amazon. Okay, so that's the first podcast you're going to want to listen to. So this podcast makes sense. Then we did a podcast number 293, how to easily build an all-star team and create a real estate organically. That's the podcast before this one. This is where we went over the 7 natural sections you need for success on each and every deal. And those 7 buckets, if you would, or 7 categories are these. I'm going to rattle them off, 1 through 7. We're not going to cover them here because we covered them in episode 294, and then we can get on with today's podcast.
No, okay? 293. We covered them in 293.
We covered them in 293. Thank you, Peter.
Yeah, and this one's 294 to continue from there. And might I say, when you said 7, I said, I wonder what he's going to be. And as soon as you started, I actually recognized some studies I've done. These are not something you made up. These are very natural things that have to happen in any business, in any activity. So these are real things that need to be done. It's
what I use. I fall off of. I realize it, get back onto. Yeah. I fall off of, realize it, get back onto, because they're like air. You don't miss it till you don't have it. You know? It's like food. Food is a little different. You don't miss it till you don't have it.
Yeah, every 3-4 hours.
It's like your car. You don't miss it till you don't have it. You know what I mean? So these buckets or these categories are important to organization, right? Yeah. So if you don't want an organization, you want to be a one-man army, God bless you, grab a hold of your well, my old man used to say this, and it's not polite. He used to say, how you doing, Jess? He'd say, I'm busier than an Indian in a one-legged ass-kicking contest. That's what he used to say. Of course, he was 100% American Indian, so.
Yeah.
He was not actually my real father. He was somebody that kind of adopted me. Anyways, number 1, someone with the idea and focus on the future. You need to have someone with the idea and focus on the future. Now, we didn't cover this last week, Peter, and I'm not supposed to be covering them now. When I say someone with the idea, I'm very specific about that. Mm-hmm. That person, everybody's got ideas. They flee in and flee out of your head every single day.
Yeah.
What I'm talking about is not derogatorily, but a stuck picture. Mm-hmm. It's a stuck picture. It won't go away. And you see it extremely clear. It has all the perceptions. It has sight, sound, smell. It has noise. It has atmospheric pressure. It has, blood pressure. It has a heartbeat. It has all the things that life needs. This picture is extremely clear. and that brings me to the next point, because if you're good at communication, which most of us aren't, including myself, if you're really good at communication, you can get others to duplicate, like a fax machine duplicates a fax, what that picture looks like. And the better you do that, the further you can go into society or into your group, the better off you are. Okay?
Yeah, isn't that a great sign of great leaders, that they can project that? They can project a dream that people can see, and they have quotes sometimes, and we still quote them to this day. Famous thing that they've said, that dream, that idea, that picture, that goal is so alive still if you pull it up.
Right.
So it's really strong.
Yep. Good. So number one is someone with the ideas and focus on the future. Number two, someone who keeps track of all the communication going in and out of the activity. And I'm not talking about a machine. So in a minute, let's go to this part first. So number three is then the person who does the marketing and sales for the activity. So number two is important because you're going to be doing outflow. Marketing is outflow. You're going to be outflowing, hey, here's what I do.
Yeah.
Now here's an interesting point, and I'm not going to get into this because I'll go off on this whole podcast on a whole different rant, because this is just where Bill Hawthorne lives, right? Here's the thing. Marketing, well, actually, I wrote down a note the other day in my notebook. Let me hang on one second. I'm going to read it to you. This is my definition of copywriting that I've never read anywhere else. The product of good copywriting. Now, copywriting is salesmanship on a page, right? The product of good copywriting is to create influence and demand for product or service as to take action. So marketing has to create a demand for the product or service. Now, once you get into marketing, you'll realize that you don't always, the demand is there, you just need to find it. You don't need to create the demand. If you're really good at doing research, then you go find the demand. And then you communicate to them, like, I have this solution for your demand. So that's why when you go back into some of our podcasts and we talk about the 5 systems that I have, right? The first one is finding a list, and who do you talk to? Because we already know those people have a demand for a product or service we could deliver. It lessens the amount of effort to go find the demand.
Sure.
Right? Like Coca-Cola doesn't go look for a thirsty person. Right? Marlboro cigarettes didn't go look for a cowboy to smoke a cigarette. Do you understand what I'm saying? So those are broad. But anyway, so the point that I'm trying to make is that so marketing is outflow and inflow. Sales is outflow, inflow. It's a numbers game. So number 2, someone keeping track of the communication going in and out of the property, or in and out of the community, in and out of the organization. Oh my goodness, is vital. Now, in our system, we call that in our CRM, in our coaching group, which is not, I'm going to change the name of it. It's not really a coaching group. I was calling it an apprenticeship. It's really an internship. That's what we're going to call it, an internship. In my internship group, the admin secretary is the one that keeps track of it. What they do is they keep track of all the communications so that somebody doesn't fall through the cracks. You know, a memorandum doesn't get missed, or an appointment doesn't get missed, or a promise that somebody made to the customer doesn't get missed. So these 3 things are all very important. You have to have somebody with an idea. You have to have somebody keep track of all the communication going in and out of the activity. And then you have to have a person that is outflowing or doing the marketing and sales for the activity. Now, in most businesses, they have a product. Like Coca-Cola has a bottle of soda.
Yeah.
Right? So the product is already there. What happens, and this happened to me on the coaching group the other night, here's what happens, and I'm going way off on this where I shouldn't be. Here's what happens in creative real estate. There's a huge misnomer, and we had this happen in the coaching group the other night. We think we're in the real estate business. We're not. The product is not a bought house. That is not the product.
Yeah.
Our service and product, we get paid for the paper, the financial paper that is connected to the house. We make our money with paper, with our documents.
Yep.
We make our money by getting owner financing or getting some sort of a payment or some sort of creative aspect, like taking over mortgage subject to or doing a lease option, finding a way where we could pay monthly until paid off, and then we go offer that to our buyer.
Right.
So the product that we're delivering to our buyer that we get paid for is the ability to not have all the money right now and be able to pay monthly until it can be paid off. And that is the service that we have. So you're not looking for houses, you're looking for those people that are willing to do that and creative real estate. Whole different product. Not enough people talk about it. So when you're doing your marketing and you're doing your outflow, that is what you're talking about. That's the demand that you're creating. And most people don't realize that when you're talking to a seller, making monthly payments, you can pay more money and give them a whole lot more benefits than if they take cash. And they don't realize that.
That's right.
Okay, so I'm going to take a breath for a second because I just puked all over everybody here. So am I okay?
Breathe, Bill. Breathe, Bill.
I'm okay. I just don't want to give somebody a headache. All right, so number 1 is the idea. Number 2 is the communication going in and out of the organization. Number 3 is the marketing and sales for the activity. Number 4 is someone to handle and keep track of the finances, which includes borrowing the funds. Here's the truth of the matter. Solvency. Peter, give me a quick definition of solvency.
I would say more money coming in than going out. How's that?
It's perfect. It's exactly what I would say. So more money going in than coming out. That's the definition of solvency. This person is in charge of that. Now, another interesting fact here, which we talked about in episode 293, another interesting fact here is that when you're buying properties, the finance person needs to look into the future and make sure that the loans that are acquired are not going to be detrimental or dangerous. Right? Like, for example, we're going through this with one of my partners right now. He wants to pay all cash for properties, and my concern is, well, we're at the peak of the market. How do you do that? You don't pay full asking price. One of the laws that I have in my creative real estate businesses is the day you buy a house, you should have equity.
That's right.
And I like 20%. Otherwise, I don't take the deed. Right? So listen to what I just said to you. If I don't have at least 20% equity, real equity, my thought, not it's worth 200, I'm going to use 230 so I have equity. No, I'm talking about real numbers. And if I don't have 20% worth of equity, I don't buy it. I don't buy it. Doesn't mean that I won't do the deal. I won't put a deed in my name.
Right, buying it. You control it, not buy it.
If I have less than 20% worth of equity, then I'll do the slot deals and the lease option deals and the option deals and wholesale deals and all that other stuff. It'll be in and out. I won't hold the property long term. Okay?
Right.
So fun, and the reason why is because in my own business, I'm the finance guy, which most of the time is the owner, but I'm the finance guy and I make those decisions. I'm not going to jeopardize the business or my life with over leveraging the loans. And that, it's very obvious that the person that handles the finances, the money in, the money out is obvious. A standard bookkeeper for $20 or $25 an hour can do that. Not to discredit bookkeepers, but you don't need to be doing that.
Yeah.
What you need to be doing is you need to make sure that the loans are correct. Okay. Number 5. Now, if we need a person in charge of all the knowledge of doing the deal, and we're going to go over this. This is where most people get stuck. They start in number 5. They start in number 5.
Well, that's the doing part.
Which is, it's the person in charge of the knowledge of doing all the deals. So you're a brand new rookie, and you come in and you start at step 5. Or you get the idea from somebody else like me that says, oh, well, you could have no debt and you could have big retirement and you could look at this. You come to my my monthly meetup, which is the third Wednesday of every month, and I do a bunch of deal structuring, and you get dazzled, and you get number 1. The idea is I'm going to do this. Mm-hmm. And you jump right to number 5. Mm-hmm. And wonder why it takes you 10 years to be like getting a deal.
Yeah, I think you talked about it before in different ways, but the idea I get, and I have to remind myself once in a while, it's very easy to go, I got to buy a house. I got to buy a house. And you look for this needle in a haystack. I got to buy a house. You can do that, but to drive yourself nuts. So the other day, on the weekend, I said, you know what? Let me just do my job. Let's just do what we have. I'll spend a couple hours, and I'll market. I'll make phone calls. I'll send texts. I'll just outflow. I did one of the other sets. I didn't worry about, at the end of the day, I went, shit, I didn't even talk to anybody. But then the next day I got, hey, how about this? And tonight we're talking to the guy in a closing call.
Right.
So I look at it that way too,
that's the exact way, that's the exact reason for this podcast, what you just said.
I learned it from you, just talking, because it's easy to go, I want to buy a house. You go run around, how about that one? Maybe I can get that one. Hey, we're going to get this one. And it doesn't always work that way. So it's almost like looking too narrow at what you're going to do. Right. Like shooting too small, and I'm doing like shotgun, just outflowing, and then you'll get something. Just be willing to let it fly, and then something will happen.
So we're spending way too much time on this, but to your point, you want to bake a cake, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-mm. So how do you do that, right? Mm-hmm. So do you have flour? Do you have sugar? Do you have oil? Do you have eggs? Do you have all the ingredients, first of all? Then how do you put the ingredient? What do you do with the ingredients? And then how do you mix it? And then how do you take care of the pan? So each one of those things are minor products or sub-products.
Yeah.
They're lesser products that add up to the product of the cake. Mm-hmm. Right? So what happens if you're not making money, that means you don't have a product or service that is of demand to others to give you exchange.
Yeah.
You're not influencing enough people to say, hey, this is really valuable, I should get it.
Yep.
Right? So if you don't have a product or service that does that, then you need to break down the subcategories or the subproducts and find out where it's broken. And that's exactly what you're talking about right now. What you're talking about is, I want to buy a house. I want to buy a house, which is step 5, which is where we're at now. You're like, I need to go back to number 2, where the communication is. Mm-hmm. And I need to communicate. And that puts you into step 3, which is outflow.
Yep.
So you juggernaut 2 and 3 back and forth so that you come up to having 5. Right?
That's right.
All right, now number 6. Once we get through all of that, we need to do some quality control, right? So the client doesn't get a bad service or a bad product. So that's why I always say, when you're talking to a client, record yourself. That's your quality control. Just record yourself and listen to yourself. You'll be your best coach, right? If you don't know how to answer objection questions, write them down and either go research them so you can find another answer, or get with somebody like me or somebody that's done it hundreds or thousands of times and say, how would you answer this question?
Yeah.
Right? That's all quality control. That's all like, if you had a failed close or a failed goal or a failed purpose or something failed, you don't say that the system doesn't work. You look at, what did I do wrong and how can I fix it? Right?
Yeah.
That's
working with your students and trying to help them as you helped me, and I try to find my way in this over these last few years. I spotted something because of how you handle salespeople, which is, if you're working in this business, when you get stopped, messed up, thrown off, confused, write it down. Have a notebook with any problem you run into. Because if you don't do that, you're going to stack up 4, 5, 6 things in your face, and you're going to stop. And you don't even know why. Just, you didn't like it. Write it down, see what it is, and just answer or figure out every little thing that's annoying until they're all solved. It's like learning anything. Just fix every little thing as you go, and you'll be okay. You'll get through it. You won't get stuck.
Right. So I really have a lot of attention on the time here, so I'm going to buzz along. So the last thing on that point is me as a coach, what I do is I have systems in place. I give them to you when you're coaching. And then my job is this quality assurance, quality control guy. I'm constantly making sure you're doing it right and correcting you. That's my number one job as a coach, is to put in this quality control to make sure that you are delivering and doing it correctly. Number 7, now we're ready for someone to handle the distribution, and that's very important. Distribution to us is we bought a house, now we need to go sell it. And that's very important, because then the whole thing goes all over again when you sell a house on the other end. Before we were acquiring, now we're selling. And here's the magic of distribution. It's not getting rid of the house. It's finding the right exact client that feels like we're giving them exchange in abundance. Right? Now, by the way, a good, really solid, really good measurement of any activity, or of these seven individual activities, is the amount of reviews or success stories floating around because of this activity. So if you have very low reviews or nobody's talking about you, you sucked at these 7 and something's way out. Right? When you have that without having to control every little thing, you have this tremendous success and people are talking about you, and people are like, so goodwill is a big thing, like referrals. I have a friend of mine that keeps track of referrals. His number one statistic is not income. It's referrals. Because he knows if the referrals are high, his staff and his organization are doing a good job, and the income and everything else will come behind it.
That makes sense.
So he keeps track of referrals. Okay.
Know what I saw this morning? My town has like one of those town communication WhatsApps or whatever, and someone said, hey, anybody know a music teacher, guitar teacher? And it was about, 12, 15 answers. I was in there 5 times.
There you go.
My neighbor, somebody I don't even remember, somebody's mom, people I haven't seen in years. And it was really, I said, thank you, everybody. It was just really nice of them. I wasn't expecting that.
That's exactly my point.
5 out of whatever.
Yep.
So
all right, so when you have all of this without having to control every little thing, with sufficient profit, in other words, the product that you want, you hit a new lifestyle that most dream about. So now let's break down into 6 categories of what creative real estate investors go through on their journey. Okay, so I'm going to do it in stages. So stage 1, this is where our rookie is doing too much of how do I do it. Stage 1, this is where our rookie is doing too much of how do I do it activity.
Is that like when I called you that first weekend, I said, where do I start? The LLC, the bank account, the name, the logo.
Exactly.
The attorney, where do I start? Jesus.
Right.
And you said, that's stupid. You don't even have anything to do anything with
Well,
you.
the thing is, I get that question a lot. Like, when should I open an LLC? When you're ready to take a deed? Which, by the way, out of my 7 deals, we only take a deed like 2 or 3 places. Everything else, like we do slot deals, option deals, and rent-to-own deals, and getting the deed, that's a different story. But those 3 deals, you could make a small fortune on those and never need an LLC. You could just take it all in your own name as income. You don't need an LLC. There's nothing. An LLC is a limited liability company. Limited liability. There is no liability when you're doing a lease. There's no liability. You can't get sued for anything.
If your name's not on the deed contract or the loan, where's the liability?
Well, there's no asset connected to it. We talked about this. We talked about this in the coaching group again this week. It's like, I'm going through this Roth IRA thing. Like, what do you put in a Roth and what don't you put in a Roth? And my accountant, unbeknownst, I don't think he was as clever as he thought he was. Right? I know he's clever because he's a good accountant, but he said it in accounting terms, not in real estate terms.
Oh,
right. So what I'm saying is he was really clever with the accounting, but he didn't realize how good advice he was giving as a real estate investor, and that is, well, in Roth IRA, Bill, you should just put these lease with options in there because then you don't have to worry about it. Because now it takes away all the way to the EBITDA tax and all the liabilities, and Roths love that because you can't sue it. You can't get sued. So they love it. Okay. All right. So stage 1 is where the rookie is doing too much how to do it activity, where too much time is spent trying to figure things out when they really don't know what a profitable deal looks like and how the process flows. Right? So in my case, I guess I always thought since I was a young boy that I was just a dumbass, that my IQ was low. I always thought that. I've just recently been tested for some of that, and that's not exactly true, which I still struggle with. I don't feel like I'm a smart guy, right? I feel like I'm just an aggressive guy, but I'm not a smart guy. My point is that for some reason I've always looked at the 30,000 foot view. Like I'll go to a seminar, I'll read a book, and I'll see the flow because I'm a salesman. So I'll see the 10 steps, and I'll be like, oh, I could do that. And then I'll jump in, and as I'm doing step 1, I'll figure out the details. And it tends to be backwards for most people. They want to figure out the details, and they never get to step 2. Right?
Well, I attribute that to your confidence or courage, or just do it, because what are you worrying about until it happens? And you know that no matter what happens, you'll figure it out. You just have a confidence. Now, some people might have that in some part of their lives, but not in this. But you just have to know that if something comes up, you can find an answer. You don't have to know everything because you can't. You still don't know everything.
Right.
And if something happens,
I still go to seminars.
You call somebody, you find a who?
We just spent a few $1,000s going to a seminar. Yeah, that has helped me a lot because just recently my life has wickedly changed so I can find a who. But I just want to say one thing. I'm not sure of this. Episode number 295. I don't know if I'm going to do like step 3 and kind of like go over like a detailed checklist of how to do this. I don't know if I want to do that because that goes way into coaching. But if I don't do that, then my next podcast is going to be managing the downside. And that's exactly what you're talking about, because I realized that that's why I don't have courage. I just manage the downside comfortably. So I manage the downside. So we'll talk about that. If not 295, then 296, one of the next coming podcasts.
Yeah, I'm just saying it doesn't scare you to stop you.
Right.
Other people get scared and they get stopped. You'll manage it. You'll figure it.
So in stage 1, the rookie is spending too much time saying, how do I do it? Right? And the rookie works long, exhausting hours in the stage with miserable, lacking results. Not ever trusting there is a standard operating procedure. There's the major out point right there. Not ever trusting that there's a technology or a skill or a knowledge of how to do this, and never seeking it out. Right? They don't.
So you don't think he's looking for that when he's floundering around?
They don't understand that there's only one standard operating procedure. That there is only one special way to do a deal, which is natural. Just like there's only one way a river flows.
Yeah.
Now, there's a bunch of forests and a bunch of woods and a bunch of places that rivers flow, but there's only one way that it flows.
Yeah.
Right? There's only one way a waterfall works. Now, there could be waterfalls in Hawaii, there could be waterfalls in Alaska, there could be waterfalls in my backyard. But there's only one way that the waterfall works.
Yep.
And people don't know that. That's a misunderstood in any industry. And by the way, that standard process that I'm talking about is what produces results over and over and over again. So it's voted the standard process by not somebody like me, but by the statistics of the process. And then the next level of that is the environment that you test it in. So it's like a process might work good in Connecticut, but does it work good in California?
Yeah.
So that's the next level of the process. So when the process is undercut to simple rules and simple laws that are basic laws, and like gravity is a basic law, right? Then when you cut it down to those simple truths, then it always works in any environment, right?
Good.
So that's a big thing, that in this stage, the rookie never trusts that there's a standard operating procedure and never seeks it out. or they don't ask who can help me achieve these standard processes, like who knows these and who can do that. And by the way, the 7 components we just talked about are those natural laws, right?
Yeah.
So, anyways, and I first ran into them online in a business group, and that business group, L. Ron Hubbard was the author of that material.
Mm-hmm.
So I found it in that business group, and it was very non-religious, all that kind of stuff. It was not what you might think it is, but the point is that I have followed those for many years and have built groups and businesses because of those 7 categories.
Yeah.
Okay, so I didn't make those up. I don't want to take credit for them. All I'm doing is telling you about them today and how I use them.
Yeah, and you apply it to whatever. I mean, I'm a one-man band music guy, but I have to use pretty much all of that.
Right.
And then, how do you do that in real estate? And how do you do that if you raise chickens, You need to do those things.
Right. All right, so stage 2. In this stage, the rookie has embarked on getting a deal or 2 done and getting a virtual assistant or 2.
Mm-hmm.
He has, number 1, the idea part covered. Number 2, the administration person that we were talking about, the helping with the communication of the outflow and the inflow, thinking this is his freedom of time.
Mm-hmm. It's better.
It's better, but there's 7, remember?
That's right. Two down.
Stage 3 is where things get interesting.
Mm-hmm.
By now, the rookie has 3 to 5 employees, but not the correct ones.
Right, that can happen.
So he will have like a virtual assistant, or as we call them, a VA. V for virtual, A for assistant. So
yeah.
We'll have a VA. And often software doing deal hunting.
Mm-hmm.
Or finding deals or looking for leads.
Mm-hmm.
Which is the machine. Remember I told you the communication is not the machine.
Right. No, that's somebody. Well, somebody has to operate the machine. It's good to have a machine, but you need a person to operate them.
Right. So, Peter, I've said this a bazillion times. I will inject it here right now. I've been to a lot of closings. I've orchestrated hundreds of closings. I don't go to them, but I've been there. I've orchestrated them.
Yeah.
I've personally been to a lot of closings. Last year, I went to a lot of closings.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I've never once seen a house come there and sign the documents. Mm-hmm. I've never seen 123 Main Street show up, get out of a car, walk up the stairs, a house I'm talking about, and sit in the lawyer's office and sign the documents.
That's right.
It's always a person. So why do we think that people are not going to make deals with people? So all this texting and all these special little gadgets that we use, these millennials that think they can do everything sitting in, like it's like the Wizard of Oz. They're behind the curtain pulling all the levers and pushing all the buttons, thinking that someday, oops, look at that, my bank account just grew because I knew which levers and which buttons to push, and I didn't even have to talk to anybody.
Yeah, didn't have to work much.
Houses in real estate in most cases are the largest asset in any family. Okay, so just reverse it. Would you do that? I mean, the thing that irks me the most is, and I'm very almost rude about it when I'm talking to sellers. They're like, well, how much is your offer? Well, what the fuck? Do you think this is Amazon? Pardon my French. Like
Home Depot. One home,
yeah.
please.
So I went on there and I looked at a book and I saw how many pages are on there and I just ordered it for $20. Like it does. And so what I say when I'm doing that, instead of being rude and saying what the F, sorry for swearing. I think that's probably the first time I've done that in a long time on the podcast.
I noticed that, but it was very appropriate.
So thank you. The point that I'll ask them is so when you bought this house, did you go look at it? And did you make your offer after you looked at it? Mm-hmm. I'd like to have the same opportunity, please.
Yeah. Did you do your due diligence? Did you just like buy it on? I get those all the time. We talked about that the other day. Like, how much? Like, Jesus, I just said hello. You already want to have children. I just said hello.
Exactly. So here we have the stage 3 is where we have the rookie. We'll have some VAs and some software doing the deal hunting leads. Probably someone looking after the renovation work. Maybe help with the finances. So they probably have a bookkeeper. They probably have a VA. And the rest of it is all about the physical house. The employees they're hiring is for the house. Like to manage the property, to clean the property, to go plow the snow, to empty the garbage, to do the renovation, to paint it. You get it?
Yes, I'm actually following this to say like, oh, I've gotten that far sometimes. I'm not that far. Okay, kind of there. I'm looking for like, what am I missing?
So at this point, I would like to make a very tongue-in-cheek, meaning very quick comment that I'm not going to cover because we could, again, do whole nother podcast on this. Stage 3 is the point of your career where it changes if you want to get big or consistent income. You realize that you're not buying and selling the house. You're buying and selling the paper in creative real estate. Now, if you want to buy and sell the house, there's lots of millionaires and billionaires like Donald Trump's and Kiyosaki and all these guys that train that, like go look at 100 houses and buy one. And that's pure negotiation. I'm asking 100, I'll give you 33,000, right? That's where the realtor world plays. There is no personality. There is no sales techniques. There is no real negotiating techniques. There is no rebuttal handling. The realtor system is designed, their code of ethics is designed, if you go online and read it, is designed not to reveal their client's motivation. They are reprimanded if they reveal the client's motivation.
Yeah.
And we're the opposite.
Well, they think people are going to take advantage of it, and we actually give them a benefit, I think.
Yeah, sorry. So I wanted to finish that, and then because I just cut you off. So they are taught to not give the motivation.
Yeah.
We're teaching you don't do it. Don't talk to anybody unless they tell you the motivation. It's 100% opposite.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Peter. Say what you said again, please.
Well, I think, from what I understand, they do that so that somebody doesn't take advantage and lowball them.
Yes.
But we're doing it so we can help them with the motivation. Right. If this is your problem, we'll help you achieve that and give you the best money we can and actually solve the problem. Because you can't throw money at everything. Money doesn't solve everything.
Right. So in stage 3, he's still not profitable. He needs to make money to pay everyone without good predict. There's not good prediction in stage 3. It's hit or miss. You're stabbing at it and you're hoping it works. In other words, the systems suck. Okay? And every task, all the work is very strained to him because there isn't a system. Okay? This is what I was talking about before, that he doesn't realize that there's a standard operating procedure, that there's a technology or a skill or knowledge on how to do each one of these things. And it's a compilation. It's a collective pocketbook of these activities.
Yep.
Right? So when number 1 is done and number 2 is done, 1, the idea, 2, the communication, 3, the fine. When it all comes together, a deal happens. And if something is missing and something is not there, then the deal doesn't happen. But you don't know that the 7 need to be there. The standard operating procedure needs to be there. The core organization. Now, if you're doing this as a solopreneur, you still need to do all these things, but it's not as critical as if you want to scale.
Yeah.
Right? So he did not follow the 7 components as he grew. So he has too many running around, not knowing what to do or how to do their products or subproducts. He's got too many people running around like randomly taking a shot at it, and he's completely doing a trial and error. So Peter, let me ask you something. If you wanted to build you have a grandson, right? Or is it a granddaughter?
I got one of each.
Okay, I thought so. So
Yeah.
I'm sorry I blanked out on that. So if you wanted to build your grandson a go-kart, let me ask you this question. Would you go reinvent a new wheel?
Oh, no, not me.
Would you invent an engine or a braking system? Why?
No, because it'd be enough trouble for a guy like me to get just a copy that's already there.
The
So
point
why
is
do that?
it would take you a lifetime to figure all that out, right? This is the
Yep.
reason why I read so much. I read so much because I don't want to go reinvent the wheel. I don't want to go figure. I want to find out people that have been successful and hear what they have to say and then plug it into my business and go, so I can learn something quicker than trying to go reinvent it myself. Why do I want to go reinvent the wheel? I was at the smoke shop last week, and I don't even know why. I went on Facebook to answer a message, and I saw this ad on Facebook.
Yeah.
As I call it. I got many words for Facebook, right? To Facebook and Flakebook, and but we'll be nice today. We'll call it Facebook, okay? So there was an ad on there. Airless tires.
Huh.
It was freaking incredible.
Huh.
They used tires with rubber going horizontally, or instead of it was amazing.
Huh.
And I thought, now there's the future.
Huh.
What a great idea. Right? Point is I don't need to invent that. Somebody else did. That's why you're looking for the who. You don't need to have the how. The how is when you got to go reinvent shit. Right?
Yeah.
So here's the point is so why do you want to reinvent? You know how many transactions are happening right now in the United States? You know how many closings are happening right now in the United States?
Gee, that's crazy. Of course, there'll be tons every day.
So why do you think that every deal is different? There is a standard protocol that has to happen in every closing to get the product.
Yeah.
Coca-Cola would not be Coca-Cola if they changed their ingredients. So just learn the ingredients and make the Coca-Cola.
And look what happened when they did.
Yeah, they did try it. Yeah,
They tank.
right. So the point is that when you know what the ingredients are, like the cake, you buy the ingredients. You have flour, you have sugar, you have butter and eggs and whatever you need, right? So you have the product. So now you're going to make the steps. You put the flour in, and then you put this in. So the point is if the cake wasn't good, or it didn't come out good, you're going to go backwards and reverse engineer the steps to see which step is out. How could you run a business without doing this? You can't. And this is why our rookies are falling on their face, because they don't know the steps or the sequence. And then when it goes wrong, they don't know how to troubleshoot. Or if they don't have money, I don't know about you, but when I think I don't have any money, I'm thinking, oh my God, where did my demand go down? Where did my outflow go down? Who did I stop talking to? What changed in my sequence of actions that either changed or was different or stopped? Why did it stop becoming a whole? And I go back but I have to know what those sequences are for me to be able to troubleshoot those. That's the system. In stage 3, the owner does not know that, doesn't have faith in that, and he's trying to make his own system because he's not saying who can help me. He's saying, how do I do it still? Do you understand? So he's still trying to work on the house and create a real estate instead of working on how do I find motivated sellers and how do I find motivated buyers and how do I connect them with the least amount of liability, the least amount of money, and the least amount of effort.
Yep.
Okay? Now, I got enough. So he's still stuck with the how to do it, right? Instead of who can do it, right? He has people willing, but they don't stay because they can't get their products. They can't get corrected when things go wrong. Division 5 or Section 5, 6 that I was talking about before, which is the quality control, is out.
Yeah.
Okay? Stage 4. You got to move along here. Stage 4. Now, here's what happens. This is where it switches. Okay? By now, he has done enough deals to know the flow and transaction details and has some basic core procedure he learned from the past expensive mistakes. So he has a system. Hopefully, by this point, what changed in his mind or her mind, I keep saying him, but it's him or her. No disrespect to the ladies. So what's changed in his mind is, oh my God, if I'm going to get this thing going, I got to stop running around like this. I got to stop having all these problems. I got to figure out a system. And he either goes and gets a coach, which is ridiculous because he could have been where he is now a year or 2 or 5 years earlier had he got somebody to do it. Let me ask you a question, Peter. Do you think it's insane? Well, first of all, let me ask you this. Do you know who Tiger Woods is?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm a golfer, by the way.
You are? Oh, here we go.
Not lately, but I have. I've golfed.
Here we go. Do
Oh,
you know
yeah.
who?
I lived on a golf course. What do you think I did? Anyways.
Do you know who Tom Brady is?
Yeah.
Okay. How about, I don't know, what's his name? Magic Johnson?
Sure.
Okay. Why do you know these guys?
Because at the top in their field.
Okay.
But yeah, I wonder how they got there.
No. Do you think once they're there, you think Tiger Woods doesn't currently use a coach?
You would think, oh, he must be at the top. He knows everything. But maybe it's just the fact that you can't see yourself.
There you go.
Right? You can't
There
see
you
yourself. You can see other people's fault. Anybody married here, a spouse, girlfriend? Yeah. You can see the other faults really good, can't you? But yours? No, I'm fine. So you need somebody to point out.
It's not me. I didn't do that.
No.
Right? So the point is that he either recognized that now, and you can excel yourself to this point quicker if you get that person that will help you sooner.
Yeah.
Right. And this podcast is not about coaching, but the point is that you can't do it without that. You can't. So the last question is you got a car battery, right? You have this is not a Ohm's law test, okay? But Ohm's law is for electricity. So you got you got a battery.
Yep.
Do you know there's a positive and a negative terminal?
Yep.
Do you know that electricity flows from one to the other?
Yes, sir.
And when it moves, that's what makes the currents. That's what makes the electricity, is the movement of that, right? That's what makes electricity. That's what makes the energy.
Yep.
Is when the electricity moves from positive to negative, negative to positive, positive to negative, and it goes in a circle, right? Okay, good. So if you take away the positive or negative terminal, you take away one of the two of them, what happens?
Nothing. It stops. There's
Why?
no flow.
It can't go anywhere.
Things have to flow. You have to have two things to flow. Energy is flow. You can't flow one thing to one thing. It doesn't go.
So it goes from point A to point B, and then from point B back to point A.
Just like communication, like everything. Right. It's a move.
So it's energy. So why does anybody listening to me right now think that they could do things all by themselves? That's like having a positive terminal, no negative, or having a negative, no positive.
Yeah.
You'll never grow. You'll never get anywhere. You might do 1 or 2 deals. You might keep a lot of your own money. But you know what? Your goals are too small. Because you're doing that, you're keeping yourself small. Because your potential is much bigger than that.
Yep.
So in this stage 4, this person starts to realize that. So here we'll have number 1, an idea. Number 2, the communication under control. Number 3, some marketing and sales working, but no quality control. So things start to fall through the cracks and lose clients and take his attention, the owner's attention, when he least expects it. But the owner will have good spurts of free time and can look in the future to see how to steer the ship. So there are some points of freedom but they're not long, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, a month at the most. He can't walk away. The point that I'm trying to make here is the mindset has changed. A couple things. Number 1, he needs to figure out how to find who can do it instead of trying to figure out how to do it. Number 2, he needs to know the flow down cold, which are the 7 things that we're talking about. And number 3, he needs to make sure there's quality control there so that he can correct things before it gets delivered from the group or the activity.
Yep.
So it doesn't show up as a bad product or a bad service and piss somebody off, which, remember what I told you, delivers bad goodwill, and that goes around too now. Right? So instead of measuring your referrals, now it's negative number. Nobody refers you, and here's the reason why.
Or they say no.
Yeah.
Minus. Like, you have minus, can't you, right?
I mean, think of the country and the state that it is right now. The country is in this state. So what happens is the government is doing things that people don't agree with, and they can't change it. So there's silence. There's a silent disagreement. So the people that could help, look at Donald Trump, where's he at? Silent disagreement. He's not helping. I mean, he might be behind the scenes, but we don't know it.
Yeah.
Silent disagreement. So this is what kills a company, is these silent disagreements. 90-something%, like 93 or 96% of people that leave a company or leave an organization is because of silent disagreement with the management. The management, usually middle management, is doing something they don't agree with, and they don't feel like they can change it.
Sure, they have the conversation or they don't have the conversation. They had the conversation and not much happened.
So this person in stage 4 is at that point.
Yeah.
Okay. Now stage 5, here the owner is not needed. He's figured it out. He's figured out that it's not real estate we're buying and selling, for creative real estate. You know, not that we won't do some flips, because we'll do that too for, you know, quick chunks of dough. We do that too. But I'm saying, but the sustainability of the company or the activity is cash flow. And the way you get cash flow is with creative real estate deals, not by borrowing money from the banks, not by over leveraging yourself with loans. What you want to do is you want to have loans that you're safe. So like subject to, if something crashes and burns, it's not in your name. It's not killing your credit. Okay, so that's a major component. And when you're buying properties, you're getting equity.
Yeah.
So you want equity and cash flow. Right? And the less equity you get and the less cash flow you get, the less chances of you doing a deal where you're going to stay in it. So that's when you start doing the slot deals and you start doing all those other type of deals, right? Which, by the way, if you go to flippinghousesforrookies.com, those slot deals and all that stuff is explained there. Okay? So here the owner's not needed. He has personally trained a core few to run the business smoothly. So he has his go-to guys.
So he's got a real business now.
Right. There's enough assets in case of upset or downturns to weather the storm. Right? Now the owner starts to give back to the industry and help those who helped him in the past, and rewards them around him. Right? Does it make sense?
Sure does.
Good. Stage 6. Stage 6 is pure philanthropy, which is giving away money. The owner is bigger than his industry at this level. This level, most don't hit. But if they do, it changes futures for the better. Changes environments and neighborhoods and states, countries for the better. Okay?
That's amazing.
Okay, now let's look at a quick list of building your team, which is hard because it's 58 minutes into the podcast, so I'm just going to buzz through these, which might be the reason why I might do this. Actually, you know what? Let's just stop here. So what I'll do is in episode number 295, we'll just do a list or a quick list of how you would use this information. What do you do? What do you do first? What do you do second? And I know you asked for that in episode number 293, but I felt like I needed to cover this stuff, like the stages in the growth process, before you can understand the steps. And the reason why is because if you don't have an ideal scene in your head, you don't know when you depart from it.
Right.
So if I'm going from here to Florida on I-95, from Connecticut to Florida on I-95, and all of a sudden I'm in Arizona, I don't know that I'm in Arizona. I don't know that I did something wrong if I don't know how to go from here to Florida.
Yeah.
I might think that going to Arizona is the right way because I don't know any better. right? So the reason why I did episode number 293 and episode 294 is so you could see all of that. So now we've kind of laid the groundwork, and I'm sorry for for droning on with all this information and trying to, it's like a lot of information. And I'm sorry that I didn't give you a quick answer, but let's do that. Let's do that in episode number 295. Let's go over a checklist, and then in episode number 296, we'll go over managing the downside. I think that's a good sequence between 293, 294, 295, and then how do you manage the downside? How do you manage or keep yourself from getting in trouble?
Well, I like how you're doing it because these 6 stages, I remember we talked about that once before, but then you talked about the 7 parts of a business, but then you coordinated those 2. It's always, for me, very important that different parts of a subject are lined up so that you see how they fit, because they're not all separate little things. It can't be.
Right.
You can't have all these different things because you'll be back at step 1 lost. Right. So I like how you did that today. And I wasn't even expecting another part, but that if you can organize this now into here's what you do, that's awesome for me.
Yeah, so I'm going to give you a hint.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? There is no way possible, absolutely, positively, without doubt in my mind, that you could make $1 in any real estate. You could make $1 without talking to people. It just can't happen. So I'm going to give you a hint that what's going to happen is you're gonna in the beginning, which is why I don't understand. I came out with this thing called the Reluctant Buyer Kit, which it was named incorrectly. But here's the point: if you want to make a doctor's income, how do you do that?
Without being a doctor?
No. How do you make a doctor's income?
You go to school for about 8 to 10 years.
Okay, and then what?
Internship in a hospital a long time, or
and
someplace.
Then what?
And then buy a lot of insurance.
Yeah, and then go in business.
Go for it. Yeah.
So here's my point: we don't need that long runway. We don't need 6 or 8 years of training. Mm-hmm. And what most people think is they need somebody like me, or they need Ron LeGrand for 30 grand, or Kiyosaki for 50 grand, or Than Merrill for 40 grand, or one of these guys that will teach them they need a coach.
Yeah.
And that is true. But I'm going to tell you what's missing. The foundation of having a good coach, in being coached, is that you have some experience. So the best thing in the world that you could do is get on the phones and go out and visit some sellers and know how not to buy their house. But study them. This is kind of like, I want to get a dog, right? Mm-hmm. So I've never understood this. I want to get a dog. I never had an animal before. I've never lived with an animal, but I want to get a dog.
Yeah.
Well, how about we do this? How about we rent a dog and it lives with us for 2 weeks first?
Sure.
So we know what it's like to have that dog in the house. Right?
Yeah. And they do that. Foster. For care groups.
Right. I want to get a wife. I'll tell you what, and this is probably against somebody's morals, but oh well. I want to get a wife. Well, how about if I date her and we live together for a little while, and I don't if that's against somebody's rules, I'm sorry, but we live together for a couple months to see how it's going to work before I marry her.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. How about this? How about I want to learn how to drive? Well, before I get on the highway, wouldn't it make sense that maybe I want to go in a parking lot where there's no cars and kind of get used to the feel of the car and how it goes, right? So why do we not do this in real estate? Why are we trying to get on the highway doing 80 miles an hour with a $60,000 car that weighs 3,500 pounds?
Yeah.
Why do we want to do that? Mm-hmm. And that's the reason why so many creative real estate investors fail, is they don't undercut the most important thing. So I came up with this, which, by the way, there's a link in the chat. It's not the Reluctant Buyer Kit. There's a link in the chat on how to do this. And for this podcast, I made 55% off. So it's normally $77. I think now it's like $42. But here's what it does. It teaches you over the course of a month at the most how you could actually get some reality on talking to people, creative real estate sellers, about their house. So now you can make a list of questions, and now you can go figure out what you need education on, and now you can get coaching, and now you can find your who's. Who can do this for me? Who can do that for me? I don't like talking to people, so who can I get to sell? And who can I get to be the admin person? And who can I get to do the deal structuring? And then it will come together quick. But we don't do that first.
Yeah.
We don't do that. We do it backwards because we're humanoids and we like to make things complicated. Right? I feel bad for the thinker brains. They're introverted and don't even know it.
Bill, you're not going to believe this. I see this in music too. Educationally, I see a lot of that, and I do this all the time. Thousands of people, and there's two classes there, even like study, or get an instrument, get a song, and go for it.
It won't hurt anything.
No, it won't. It won't be great. I mean, one of the top bass players in the world takes the student the first day, tries to get him to play something. Like, why not?
Yep.
You'll understand. I have a student that's been playing for 3 years that has not played a song ever.
Yep.
And I showed him a song. He knows 2 songs now in a couple of weeks. It's like, oh my God, look, it's just the way people go about things. So it's okay to go at it and then learn as you go. At least you know what you're learning because you're experiencing it. Otherwise, you're reading about things you don't know how it feels, how it tastes. You don't know.
So I agree with all that. And to end the podcast, that's the reason why in episode number 295, we're going to go over like the checklist. Okay? I don't even know what that is yet, but I'll figure it out. And then 296 will be managing the downside, so you can learn without having to have expense or cost or liability. Managing the downside is the part where, I'll let out another secret. I was watching something. What is his name? Charles Branson.
Charles Bronson, the actor. Yeah.
He owns Virginia Airlines.
Oh no! Wait a minute.
Branson?
The English guy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Something. Yeah. I know Bronson's first name.
Anyways, so I was reading something about him, and here's what happens. He made his money, his fortune. I think it was with Hollywood or whatever it was. He made his fortune, and and maybe I'll tell the story in episode number 296, but we'll see. But the point is that he wanted to start an airline. His financial people said, "No, you're not going to spend $600 million buying airplanes, whatever the number is, right?"
Yeah.
So he outsmarted them.
What'd he do?
He wrote a contract for some airplanes and leased them for a year to test his concept, managing the downside.
Yep.
And that's how we do real estate.
And when you said they will buy, oh, he's going to lease them. Son of a bitch. Because like we lease houses instead of buying, just lease them.
That's why it's
control
connected.
it, and then don't have the liability. And he did that.
Yep. He managed the downside.
And he was right. And it's Virgin Airlines. That's the guy.
Virgin Airlines, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. All right, good. So we're over and out. Make sure you go in the description, grab the link, because there's a hot. This, if I was brand new, I would bow down and worship the fact that I had this tool. Honestly, because I've been through it both ends. And by the way, don't think that I've been so successful. I've been up and down. I've crashed myself multiple times in 21 years and had to bootstrap, meaning use my own resources to get back going again. And when I do, this tool that I'm giving you right now is exactly how I do it. Mm-hmm. So don't take it lightly. Don't think because it's only $42 that it's not something valuable. I'm going to tell you it's extremely valuable. I'm just being an ass and selling it to you for $42 to try to ethically bribe you to get off your ass and go do something. Mm-hmm. Instead of just listening to us on this podcast. I want to stop being your entertainment and start being your coach, I guess, or your motivator to get you to do something. Okay?
Yep.
Pete, thanks for being with me here. Again, make sure you leave us a review. Make sure you subscribe to us wherever you're watching us or listening to us, and we'll talk to you on episode number 295. Over and out.
Thanks for tuning in to the hottest real estate topics on the planet with Bill and Pete. If you want to continue learning how to buy and sell real estate without money or credit, head over to flippinghouses.club for some cutting-edge real estate wealth tools. Or contact us at info@flippinghouses.club.